89.5 FM. Not alone, obviously. Ben is here, Jonah is here, and Jamie. Anyway, it's time for our first interview for the day. Jamie, who's speaking to?
Of course, we are going to be speaking to Jessica today. Do you want me to give a little bit of a background?
Please,
Okay, cool.
please.
So she's from the Justice Desk, an award-winning human rights organization that operates across Africa. So, of course, they were established in 2013 with the main goal being to promote the power of everyday activists. I hope I said that correctly. I hope I did justice to the
To the desk.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Okay, cool. So kicking us off, we're going to be just kicking into it. I hope you don't mind. Just tell the people a little bit more about you and how you first got involved when it comes to, of course, justice for the people.
Awesome. Well, first, thanks for having us. It's really cool to be here. I started my human rights journey when I was 14 years old. I started doing activism work, human rights work, working in various nonprofits. I did a lot of the charity-based stuff, which was fantastic and it was awesome. We used to run camps for vulnerable kids, refugees, kids infected or affected by HIV and AIDS. And it was fantastic, but the same kids kept coming to camp all the time. And that's when I realized that what are we actually fixing here? If we truly believed in the dignity and worth of these children, surely we would want to, do work that meant that they wouldn't have to need our services in the future. So then I did the flip side of that, and I did the United Nations and focused on, okay, let's try to change laws, let's try to change mechanisms and policies. Did that for a while, got some laws changed, but then very quickly realized that laws changed, but that means nothing on the ground. And it didn't change the lives of the people I loved, which was in grassroots communities within South Africa and Africa as a whole. And I kept seeing all these people speaking on behalf of the poverty-stricken and speaking on behalf of those who are being oppressed by different levels of injustice. And I started thinking about why is it not that the real experts on their own issues, which are community members themselves, why are they not given platforms where they can speak? Because everyone has a voice. I really hate the term, we want to be a voice for the voiceless. I'm like, yeah. Everyone has a voice. It's just that because of inequality, not all of us had the same access to platforms to speak. So for us, it was about how do we empower the everyday person, the real change makers, the people who are the only ones who actually have the right to speak about the issues that they experience and how they feel these issues need to be addressed. How do we empower those people to become the human rights defenders and the change makers that they were born to be? And that's how the Justice Desk started.
An amazing background. I'm not even going to add anything further to that. I'll come to my next question later. Ben?
Yeah, so kind of talk to me about, I know you guys have quite a broad kind of overarching goal, but talk to me about, like, when you started out, did you have a specific kind of thought or goal in mind, and kind of how has that changed or evolved over the last 10 years at this point, I guess?
Our main mission was always to promote the power of everyday activists. So everyday activists, that's the term that we use to describe just the everyday person who wakes up and sees something that they don't like and simply says something about it. I think across the world, but also in South Africa, we're guilty of putting our change makers on pedestals. And we create gods out of them, saints out of them. We put people in this like really high position. And even though it's amazing because a lot of our heroes like Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela and these incredible people, even though they did amazing things, they were still human. And I often find when I speak to people in communities, they'll say, well, this issue is too big for us. We need someone like Nelson Mandela to fix it. And I'm always like, why can't you fix it? And Nelson Mandela was a person, so are you. So we're very cautious about making change makers these unattainable, famous people. I think even in the States, like when someone does activism work, they're like put on this, they become like celebrities almost. And we're not about that. We're about saying, if a little kid looks up to, Greta, for example, they're not going to say, oh, I could definitely be that. Maybe a few of them, but not the everyday person. So we're trying to say, how can we, particularly across the African continent, which is our passion place, our home, our everything, how do we make sure that the everyday person feels confident enough to lead their own change? Has that mission changed over the past 10 years? No. The expressions of it have changed, definitely. So we have had a variety of projects which aren't there anymore. We have new projects. We've had some projects which have been here for the 10 years. But the main goal, our main purpose has never faltered.
Yeah, so just going off that, for an everyday person who wants to make a change, how would you suggest that they start their journey in activism?
Awesome. My first kind of step with everyone, it's a good question, and a lot of people ask it, and I always say start with yourself. Educate yourself. Reflect. What systems are you in your own life upholding? So me, for example, I'm a white South African, and because of that I come with a lot of privilege, and I get access to spaces that other people don't. So what's really important is to reflect on that. What privileges do you hold? What biases do you hold, conscious and unconscious? How are you doing the work on yourself to make sure that the impact you're leaving on this world is a just one? So start with yourself, educate yourself. So read, write, find out information. If you're getting all your information from one source, no offense, one radio station or one newspaper or one news channel, then you're doing it wrong. You need to make sure that you're getting a variety of opinions and voices. You need to be speaking to people who aren't exactly like you. I always say to people, if your best friends and your family and the people that you hang around with all the time, if they kind of look like you and sound like you and enjoy doing the exact same things you do, then how are you going to get a different opinion? How are you going to get a different perspective? How are you going to learn to love people for their diversity if you were never exposed to diversity? And unfortunately in our world, diversity is weaponized and it's used as something to make us hate each other and fear each other. So it's really important that we in our own lives push ourselves to get to know people who are not like us, because that's the only way we'll learn to love them and therefore learn to stand up for their rights. So the first two places is always reflect on yourself, do your own self-work, and number two, educate yourself. Then become a volunteer at the Justice Desk or a variety of other things. But we actually have a how-to guide on our website as well, which people are welcome to download. But those are the first two, and I think the most important.
If you have just joined us now, we're speaking to Jessica, CEO and the founder of an organization called Justice Desk. So now, obviously, you being involved with Justice Desk, seeing a lot of things, trying to achieve a lot of things, some maybe are not happening the way you want to. So what's a project or initiative that you've been particularly proud of? And can you tell us a little bit about what went into developing that project?
Sure. We have a lot of really cool projects. You're going to make me pick. That's mean. Okay, I would say our biggest project, which is our Youth Ambassadors project. It's also our oldest one. And the idea behind that was really being sick of everyone saying, young people are the leaders of tomorrow. And one of our kids, actually in one of our schools, said, well, if I have to live with the effects of what the adults are doing in this world right now, if I'm the one that's being murdered and raped and attacked, and I have to live through all of this, surely I should have a say in how this is all going. And that's where the Youth Ambassadors program came from. How about we work across a bunch of schools across Africa, and we select 5 young people to be Justice Desk Youth Ambassadors, 2 teachers to become advocacy teachers, and in order to sign up to be a Justice school, we train every single student, every single teacher, the principal, we work with the parents, and these young people run 4 large-scale human rights campaigns a year. So the topic of the campaign, our key focal areas are human rights education, ending gender-based violence, and promoting children's rights. So we get our young people to run advocacy campaigns based on that. And then the 4th one, they can choose based on their own community and what the issues are they feel they're facing. And it has been absolutely phenomenal. Our youth ambassadors, 2 of them in Kimberley were responsible for the capture of 3 human traffickers. And the rescue of a young girl who had been trafficked within 24 hours of her being trafficked, when the rescue rate is 1%. We've had youth ambassadors in Zambia end child marriages and abolish corporal punishment in 6 schools. We just had some ambassadors in Ghana bust the child trafficking ring. Some other YAs in South Africa were part of the group that helped to end tampon tax and who set up the first WhatsApp line for the deaf community to call the police, because no one had stopped to think, hey, how does someone who's deaf call the police if you can't hear on the phone? And it's taken a bunch of young people, all under the age of 17, to do these absolutely incredible things. Has it been easy for them? No, activism is never easy. And it can be very traumatizing and heartbreaking work. But being a youth ambassador means you belong to a community, and having a school that's culture is changing to one that respects human rights. Those support structures are there to help these young people to slowly enter the world of activism and realize that there's many different things that they can do to change their world, and they don't have to wait to tomorrow. They can start doing it right now.
And of course, Jessica, my question that I have for you, speaking on that, do you have any future goals or perhaps another, thing that you want to start going forward? It is 2023, it's January, people are, probably looking forward to what you have next. Can you share some of what's in the pipeline?
Awesome. So we're celebrating our 10th birthday this year, so we're definitely going to have a party. That's the first thing I would like to do this year. How the team is going to do that, I'm not quite sure. I'm looking forward to attending, but it's going to be really amazing. I'm super proud of our team. I mean, we're an organization that was founded, is driven, is inspired, is completely run by young people. And the world tells us that young people don't know what we're talking about. But look what we've done. I mean, we're a young organization. We've reached over 2 million people. And by the end of this year, we'll be in 10 countries.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal to me. And it's a big in the face of all those who keep telling us the young people need to sit down and stop talking. I keep saying to them, you're speaking to the wrong people, because in South Africa, it's the young people who talk the most and who should be listened to the most. But at the Justice Desk, I mean, we have an incredible project called the Umbokoro Club, which is for young girls who are survivors of rape and gender-based violence. We have an incredible project called Insiki Atemba, which is for young boys who are trying to end gender-based violence in their communities. So they're learning about consent, they're learning about positive forms of masculinity, they're learning about brotherhood. They're the most incredible things that these young boys are journeying through together. We have a project for people who have been abandoned with disabilities. And these projects are really doing phenomenal things. Changing so many lives. So for me, a big thing within Justice Desk and kind of my personal goal is to make sure that this organization continues to do amazing work, that our impact continues to grow, true measurable impact, but also that we can become more financially sustainable and secure. A lot of people don't really like human rights organizations. In fact, which is weird in South Africa, but I mean, all we know, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for human rights organizations. But we actually just had someone do a study on us, and they said, donors, they're so uncomfortable with the word activism and human rights. Maybe you should stop using that. And I was like, what the heck? That's who we are.
Yeah.
And for us, we want to reclaim the word activism. I think the world paints it really negatively on purpose so that people don't want to get involved in activism. So we want to reclaim the word, we want to reclaim the work. And I think something for me this year, my team is phenomenal. These are the most inspiring people you will ever meet, and they do phenomenal work. My job is to make sure that they can do that work. So my personal goals this year is to make this sustainable financially, and really the impact, I want it measurable, I want it fantastic. I mean, it is already, but to continue to build on that. We're launching in 3 additional countries this year. So we are in South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe, and last year we launched in Sierra Leone, the Gambia, Ghana, and Liberia. And now we're heading to Kenya, South Sudan, and Tanzania. So I hope that those will go well. I'm sure they'll go well.
We're going global.
Well, Justice is Africa. Africa is our home, and we're very passionate about that. So I think that this year we're going to build on the incredible work that we already do. I'm super proud of this team and what we do, and I think I can put my name and my everything on the fact that this work is real and it's making an actual difference in the lives of the people in grassroots communities. So for me, it's make it sustainable, help it to do what it needs to do, and help all our change makers across the globe, all these everyday activists, continue to support them so they can do the work that needs to be done.
Okay, as an organization that is involved all over the continent, do you feel that Africans know their rights, or there's still like a lot of things needed to be done?
I think there's 2 parts to that. So I think a lot of people across Africa don't know what their rights are at all. And I think that's quite strategic. If you don't know what your rights are, how are you going to defend them? And I think that's a very big thing that, in my opinion, a lot of world leaders and a lot of businesses loaded a lot of money into preventing people from knowing what their rights are. So that is one aspect. But I think the second aspect is then you get people who know their rights, but they don't know how to access them. So they don't know that second step. What is my responsibilities when it comes to rights? How do I know I have the right to, safety, but do I know that I need to go actually physically open up a case in court? Do I need to know that this is the evidence that I need to be collecting if I want to go and get a protection order? We have so many rights, but there are things that we need to do to be able to access them, and that part is often missing. And I think that that's really problematic, because then you'll get cases where people just give up because the system isn't working. But it's because we don't know the system well enough. And yes, and a lot of time our systems are really broken and need to change, but we need to understand it in order to change it. So I think that a lot of work still needs to be done in human rights education. South Africa in particular needs a lot. I mean, every country in Africa I think needs a lot of work when it comes to human rights education. But I think South Africa, we think we know a lot more than we do. And we're so young into our democracy. We're like, we know what justice is, we know what human rights is. And then I'm like, well, then why are townships still a thing? Like, why have we normalized it to the extent that we're okay with it? Like, that's a crime against humanity. Like, we should, seriously, we should not be able to go to sleep with the fact that townships exist. But a lot of stuff has become normalized to us. And I think we need to start really going back to basics. And you know, people are talking about all the, you know, you have 30 fundamental human rights. And I'm like, guys, number one is the right to life. And we're not even achieving that in this country. So we need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to our communities, to the lives of the person that a lot of people consider is the less person, you know, in society, the less valued. If that person's life is not one where they can experience and celebrate and live a happy, healthy life with their human rights, then no one in this country is. If one right falls, they will all fall. And same goes with our people.
Time is jealous, though. Quickly, Ben and Jonah, and then we're going to say goodbye.
I just have one last question for you. I mean, I don't want to be rude, but you look quite young. You started the organization
Why is
10
that
years
rude?
ago. Well, I didn't.
If you said I look old, then I'd be like, what?
Yeah, you started it 10 years ago. It's clearly you're a very accomplished woman. What would you say was kind of like the impetus for you to start? Of course, you kind of went over that a little bit already, but like how are you able to grow into such a? You talked about being able to affect 2 million people's lives. That's crazy. I think I read somewhere that you had like 500,000 people that you trained. Like how were you able to get such a crazy network like that at such a young age? I think.
Can we quickly take Jonah's one also?
Okay, mine is a shorter question, just kind of relating to everything going on in South Africa. Do you believe that electricity is a human right?
Well, guys, you should have booked me for the whole day. Why did you give me such a small
And also, you have to be quick, Jessica, because time is jealous.
I do think that, you know, if you have your human rights, you live a happy and a healthy life. And without electricity, you can't have access to proper things like healthcare. You know, if it starts threatening things like food security, this is a massive human rights issue. So yes, I think that our government is failing us when it comes to that, 100%, and many other things. Then when it comes to your questions, so how do we do what we do? Because we believe in people, and we love people. And we don't think that there's certain people who change the world. It's everyone who does.
Mm-hmm.
So we simply work with people, help them to fall in love with human rights and understand that they have the right to fight for the life that they deserve. And we simply support them in doing that. That's all that needs to be done. If you help someone realize the power that's already in them, they will do the rest. So yes, we've reached 2 million people, and technically we've changed that many lives, but I haven't. It's the people in our projects who have actually done that.
Quickly, people want to get a hold of you?
Yes, you can go to www.justicedesk.org. You can also find us on social media at the Justice Desk. And if you want to chat to me, it's at Jess Dewhurst SA, I think. But yes, please reach out to us. We take volunteers, we take interns, and we're looking for more partners and more donors. So if you want to get involved, please reach us.
Jamie?
I couldn't have said it any better. I think that's all that I have. But wait, before I let you go, do you have any words of advice for anybody out there, maybe wanting to do what you do, or be a part of what you do? Just give people some motivation.
Of course. Can I say one other thing first, because I forgot and my team's going to kill me. So for our 10th birthday on Human Rights Day, which is in March, we are asking, we're looking for 100 companies to donate 10,000 Rand. And so if you're one of those companies, you want to contribute towards our mission and our vision across Africa, please contact us, and we'd love to have you join that group of 100. But yeah, for young people out there who want to start, here's the most important thing, and it's super complicated, and I don't know if you're going to be able to do that. Just start. Just believe in yourself. It's actually not that hard. The world tells you that activism is hard. The world tells you that you cannot do it. You're too small. You're too young. This isn't your place. This is always your place. You're a human being. You have rights. And if you're not going to do it, then who is going to do it? So get up. Believe in yourself. If you need support, the support is there for you. You can come to Justice. We're happy to support you. But the first step, the most important one, some think it's the hardest, but we know it's the easiest. Take that first step. You can do it.
And when you start, obviously there will be someone who will follow you.
Yes. Inspire, inspire, inspire.
As Damian Mal is saying, so a child may follow. Jessica from Justice Desk, thank you very much for coming through.
Thanks for having me.
Sweet.